Welcome to the Binge List. I am your host, Paul Chappell, and we are recapping and reviewing Mandalorian Season 2, which has finally come back. My life has purpose again. Yay! Okay, this episode is called The Marshal, and it's Chapter 9, so we're keeping up with the chapter thing they started in the first season. That's great. I like that. Kind of feels like I'm reading a novel, but not really. So, let's recap last season a little bit. When we last left Mando, he had been given an assignment or a quest, as he terms it, by the Mandalorian armorer to return Baby Yoda to his people. Now, his people, not his species. His people are the ancient sorcerers known as the Jedi. So I don't know how that's going to work out. We already know that the Jedi have been wiped out. And of course, if he could take them to Luke, but I doubt that's going to happen. But so Mando starts on his quest. He goes to an unnamed planet to seek out a guy named Gor Karish, who has information he thinks about some other Mandalorians in the universe, possibly. Some things happen. I won't get into it. I don't want to spoil too much for you guys, but Mando finds out that there is another Mandalorian on Tatooine. And at first, I was kind of disappointed because you might remember one of my complaints from last season is that they keep going back to the same well. They keep going back to Tatooine and places we've already been. But once I realized that their sole purpose for doing this is to bring back Boba Fett in some form or another, I was on board. Mando goes back to Tatooine to look for a place called Mos Pelgo, where this Mandalorian has been seen, and he finds the Mandalorian, and lo and behold, it's Cobb Vanth. Cobb Vanth is a character from a novel that came out in 2015 called Star Wars: The Aftermath Trilogy by Chuck Wendig. And if you know anything about the story, he finds Boba Fett's armor. Now, this is significant because, for one thing, he doesn't find the armor on a dead body. He finds it in the crawler of one of the Jawa tribes. So, immediately we know that the Jawas found this armor somewhere. We have a hope that, hey, Boba Fett is, yes, alive. But of course, Mando doesn't like the fact that Cobb has this Mandalorian armor. I guess part of the code is you cannot wear the armor of a Mandalorian unless you are a Mandalorian. So Cobb gives him an alternate solution to the problem. There is something called a crate dragon terrorizing this little town of humanoids. He tells Mando, if you help me kill this crate dragon, I will give you the armor back. So Mando accepts this challenge. He uses his connections with the Tusken Raiders, the Sand People, to help in this quest. They come up with this convoluted scheme to draw that dragon out. Now, the dragon, in case you haven't seen the episode yet, is kind of like a sandworm from Doom. In fact, it's exactly like a sandworm from Doom. Of course, it's not a worm. It is actually more like a dragon. It has a big gaping mouth and teeth and all that, but it can burrow itself under the ground. And there's so many references to what we learned about Tatooine from Return of the Jedi. For one thing, Sarlacc pits are all over the planet. Cobb actually mentions the fact that yes, there are Sarlacc pits everywhere, and this crate dragon has burrowed itself in a Sarlacc pit. And Mando speculates that it's because he actually ate the Sarlacc. So is this the Sarlacc that Boba Fett fell into? We don't know, but it seems likely. Because this show hasn't been very subtle in how they connect the dots to the older trilogies. So, yes, I believe that this crate dragon killed a Sarlacc that was holding Boba Fett captive. Because you might remember a Sarlacc, if you've done your research, is a creature that keeps you alive for over 1,000 years while it slowly digests you. I think that Boba Fett was trapped in this Sarlacc, and this crate dragon killed the Sarlacc he was in. He escaped, but for some reason he had to leave his armor behind. And as a result, the Jawas found the armor. And here we are. Cobb got it from the Jawas. And if we needed any kind of reassurance that indeed Boba Fett will be back, We actually see the actor who plays him, Tamira Morrison. We see him in one of the final shots of the episode, and he's not wearing armor. So it's obviously him. He is obviously going to be in a future episode. So what did I think of this episode? Well, for the most part, I liked it. I thought it was mostly filler, but it was the kind of filler that I like because it gave me these things to connect the dots. The Boba Fett armor, the Sarlacc explanation, all these other little connected dot points. We learned a little bit more about Mandalorian's culture from just his interaction with this guy who stole the armor. So I like that part of it. Baby Yoda really didn't do anything in this episode. I like the opening where they go to the match between the Gamorrean guards with the vibro axes. I like that. So there was a lot of things like in this episode. It looks like it's going to be a good season. Let's go through all the Easter eggs real quick. There was a lot of them, but I'm only going to focus on the most important. The first of which is Cobb Vanth. As you can see here, wearing the armor. Now, I analyzed this armor and compared it to Boba Fett's armor from the original series. And as you can tell in this shot, there's a noticeable dent in the helmet right here. And that's consistent with Boba Fett's armor. We have this little Mandalorian symbol on the armor. We have the little digital readout on the armor. So yes, this is Boba Fett's armor. There's no doubt in my mind about that. In this shot, this is a call back to the pod racing in the prequel trilogy. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually the turbine from Anakin's pod racer that Cobb Vanth has somehow converted into a hovercraft. Here's another shot of it. I thought this was pretty awesome. When Cobb is giving his backstory, he tells Mando what happened right after the destruction of the second Death Star. And we see it right here in this shot. It pretty much created a power vacuum in the universe, which kind of doomed this town to slavery from some miners. So I like that little callback. In this shot, we see something called a Krayt Dragon Pearl. Now, Krayt Dragon Pearls is actually a thing in the extended universe. It was rumored that Han Solo had one of these pearls and he used it to buy into the game that he had with Lando Calrissian, where he got Lando's ship, the Millennium Falcon. And of course, last but not least, we see a guy on the horizon of the desert watching Mando as he speeds away. And we see that it is Boba Fett himself without his armor. And as you can probably see in this next shot, he is somewhat scarred. And I would just say that I think that has something to do with him being in the Sarlacc, maybe some of the acid from the Sarlacc. So that's pretty much it. Those are all the important. There's some other little details, but I think these are the most important ones. Overall, like I said, the episode was good. The only thing I kind of was a little bit negative about was the fact that Mando goes into the mouth of the Krayt Dragon. I thought that was kind of corny. I don't think his armor would have withstood that acid that the dragon had in his mouth. But it was kind of cool, but dumb at the same time. So, I don't know. I'm willing to accept it. There's a lot of corny stuff in Star Wars. I mean, it's not going to be the first thing. And it's not going to be the last thing. So, it is what it is. This universe is pretty much for kids. I mean, George Lucas has said that. So there's going to be some corniness in it. You just have to accept it for what it is. But I like this episode, and I'm looking forward to the real reveal of Boba Fett. And I'm going to expect this to happen sometime next episode, because there's no reason for Mando to really stay on the planet unless somebody keeps him there. So I'm anticipating that Boba Fett is going to attack him in some way, or that he's going to get some lead on Boba Fett. But one thing we do know about Boba Fett from the Clone Wars is that he wasn't a real Mandalorian. We know his father took off his helmet numerous times in the prequel trilogy. We don't have any indication that he did that, but from what I've been able to research, no, he is not a Mandalorian. So I'm looking forward to see how this plays out, whether they battle it out, whether they join forces. There's so many things they could do with this. I like Timothy Olyphant in this episode. He was a great addition to the cast. I think we're going to be seeing more of him later. If you remember from last season, Mando goes back and gets help from all the people he did missions with, and I expect something like that to happen later this season. But that's all I got for today. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I do, and come back next week. I will be recounting every episode. Give me a like, give me a comment down below. Let me think, did I miss anything important? I don't think I did, but let me know in the comments if I did, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you when I see you. Thanks for watching.